Okay, so let's see how we can use geometry to create the actual numbers here for the clock. Okay, so let's go ahead and see how we can get that done. I'm going to go to a left view, hit L on the keyboard to do that quickly. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the text tool here. I'm going to switch to splines, and I'm going to use the text tool. We've already used it before, so it shouldn't be it should be pretty familiar to you. Okay, so basically we're going to use this tool to come in here and write, say, our Roman numerals here for the clock, and start to get this done. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look for a different type of font, one that looks better, more like the Roman numerals on the clock. If I zoom in here a little bit, you can see the type of font it is. Let's go ahead and look for one that looks similar to that. And there's a few here that I can use. This one, for example, looks pretty good. Look at this one. It looks very similar to the one used in the clock. So I'm going to go ahead and say that I'm happy with this one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the number 12, since that's going to be up here. Number 12 is an X and two I's. Alright. And what I'm going to do here is go back to perspective view. Obviously, it's way too big, so I'm going to scale it down. And I can use that either scaling down using the scale tool, or I can reduce the size using the size parameter over here. Okay. So I'm going to bring this over here, and I'm going to bring it out so it sticks out of the clock just a little bit like that. So when it renders out, you can actually see it. Okay, going to reduce the size a little bit there. Okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to the clock piece here, and I'm going to go to edge mode, select that edge right there, and select its ring. I'm going to connect that one time, and with the slide tool, I'm going to go ahead and slide this to about right up here. Looks pretty good. So that's basically going to go around the middle right there where the numbers are going to be. So I'm going to take the number here. And I don't like where it's located right now. Let me switch over here to selection center mode. I'm going to snap this to, you can see my snapping is off. Let me go to my grid and snap settings, turn grid points off, turn vertex snapping on. I'm going to snap it right there to that vertex that's been created because of that edge that I created right there. Okay, so there's my number. What I'm going to do now is I'm basically going to use a different tool that we haven't seen yet to go ahead and create the numbers all the way around this. And the way I'm going to do that is like so. Let me take this guy here, and I'm going to take this polygon right here, and I'm going to use subdivision and open up the tessellation settings here. And I'm going to tessellate this on the face and hit OK. So now there's a vertex in the middle right there, which I'm going to need. I'm going to go back and select my number, and I'm going to take its pivot point. And you probably guessed it. I'm going to move that pivot point and snap it to that vertex that I created down here. Right there. Make sure it's snapped to the correct vertex. And what that means is that when this rotates, it rotates on that edge. See that? So it rotates in a perfect circle. Okay? Now what I'm going to do is, check this out. This is going to be really cool. I'm going to go up to Tools with the number selected, and I'm going to go to Array. Okay? And I'm going to create an array. So what's an array? Very quickly, an array is basically a whole bunch of objects that are cloned and duplicated in different patterns, in different arrays. Alright? This tool allows you to create different patterns. Say, for example, if you wanted to create a bunch of boxes in a warehouse that are evenly spaced and maybe stacked on top of each other, instead of doing that manually by hand by holding on shift and cloning over and over and over again, which would take forever, you can use the array tool to do that easily. So let me show you how we can use this to our advantage here. We can do two types of cloning. We can clone incrementally, which are these parameters over here on the left. Okay. I can reset all the parameters in case if I made a mess of things over here and start moving numbers around, things like that. I can reset all the parameters. I can also clone objects based on totals, and that's what I'm going to use. Now down here we have a preview option. If we turn that on, we can preview the cloning before it happens. Okay, so what I'm going to do is instead of move and scale, I'm going to use the rotate, and I'm going to rotate. If I hit this little arrow icon, I'll use the totals parameter. If I hit the left arrow icon, I'll use the incremental parameters. I want to use the totals. I want to rotate this in the x-axis. You can see as I do this, we can get our numbers get distributed evenly on a rotational basis here. Okay, So I want to rotate this 360 degrees because I know that a circle is 360 degrees. Okay, and the count's very important. Down here in the array dimensions, we can select the number of objects that we want to go ahead and create. I want to create 12 because a clock has 12 numbers. It goes from 1 hour to 12 hours. So 12 is what I want to go with. When I'm done selecting those parameters, I'll hit OK, and there we go. We have our numbers evenly distributed and perfectly placed on our clock. Now the next thing to do is just to manually come in here and change the numbers. So I'm going to select the clock here and I'm going to freeze the selection so I don't accidentally select it. And the top number is going to be 12. This number here is going to be a 1. So I'm going to make an I right there. And you could see here that I had a problem. When I come in here, I'm going to go ahead and put this back to 12. You can see all of them are being edited the same way. Let me undo a couple of times here and show you what I did wrong here. This is very important. Let me go back to array. When we created our array, I left the type of object set at instance. See how we have 3 different options? We have copy, instance, and reference. I don't want to do instance. Instance is on by default, so you want to be careful because that'll catch you off guard if you're not paying attention. Instance will just basically make an instance, so all the clones will be an instance of the original one. So when you edit the original, all the clones will be edited as well. That can be useful in some circumstances. Right now, that's not going to be useful, so I'm going to switch to copy. All my parameters are still identical, so if I go to preview, you can see everything's still the same. So I'll hit OK. And now what happens is, if I go ahead and freeze this guy so I don't accidentally select him, if I select this guy and make it an I, only that one gets changed. All the other ones are not altered. They're left alone, which is exactly what I want. So basically, I'm just going to come in here and start fixing these numbers up. So I'll fast forward through this and go ahead and get this done. Okay, so I finished basically altering the numbers here. So I'm just going to look at this really quickly and make sure I didn't make a silly mistake like putting the wrong number. So I know this is 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That one is 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And if my Roman numeral knowledge is correct, that should be 11. Although we can use the reference image here for reference. So go ahead and take advantage of that. Okay, so now with that done, I'm going to unfreeze all. Editor, edit that video, start again. In 3, 2, 1. Okay, so now with that done, let me go ahead and let me take all of the numbers here. Make sure you only select the numbers. Alright. And I'm going to convert all of them to editable polys. And they're not rendering out at the moment. I need to move them forward a bit. So with all of these guys selected, I'm going to move them forward just a little bit. And there we go. There's our numbers. Awesome. Fantastic. Okay. Alright, so I'm going to unfreeze all, because this is pretty much done right there. And the next thing I'm going to do is, let me see what I'm going to do. Probably just going to go ahead and leave this alone, except for right here. I'm going to take all the front vertices right here. You can also just select the polygons that are in the front right there and grow the selection one time. And I'm going to move this back like so. Makes more sense to do that. Run that out. Looks pretty good. Okay, so I'm going to say that I'm happy with my clock. Okay, now I want to be able to keep these hour hands and things. I want to be able to keep them as loose, separate objects. So what I want to do here And I also have to fix up the back. You can see the back here, I didn't finish this off. So before I go any further, let me go ahead and fix that back part. So I'm going to take these edges, I'm going to extrude them out like so, and I'm going to cap that and bring that out to about the back right there. That looks fine. Okay, so I'm going to say that's officially done. I'm going to take the clock piece here, the main piece, okay, and what I want to basically do is I want to create a container object from all this, okay, and the reason I'm going to do that is so that I can take all of this stuff and export it out as separate pieces, but make it all together in a container, okay, so it's going to make things easier later. I don't want to attach everything and then it's just going to be a huge mess. So what I'm going to do is pretty simple here. I'm going to select all of these guys here. Let me close the reference image. Don't need it anymore. And with all of these guys selected, what I'm going to simply do is I'm going to go to my tools over here, go to the containers menu, and I'm going to go to create container from selection. Okay, there's my little container object in there. If you remember from before, we can apply label. We can increase the size of the container bounding box just so that we can see it a little bit easier. I'm going to change the container name. I'm going to call this container. I had caps lock on, so let me take that and let me see if I can remember how to spell here. And container clock. Okay, so there's my container clock. Now it's very simple. If you remember, we're going to go ahead and save the container out, and we're going to call this one container underscore clock. And there we go. Our container is, well, it's saved out. So that's going to do it for this one. We're pretty much done with all of these props here.